The Negros Cultural Foundation Incorporated, founded in 1987, was conceived to revitalize and reawaken interest in the arts and other cultural activities in the region. Since its conception, NCF has established and continues to run two museums in Negros Occidental, namely the Sine Negrense and the Negros Museum. The Negros Museum stood tall in fulfilling its mission as home of Negrense stories, preserving the rich culture, tradition, and artistic practices of Negros as part of its commitment to contribute to long-lasting social understanding. In the past 24 years, the Negros Museum has been in the forefront of the region's cultural and art landscape through its following programs. Exhibits and artist talks. The permanent and changing exhibits in the museum galleries are supplemented by artist talks to emphasize the creative process, inspiration, and exploration of the artist. Educational tours. Ang mga istorya ni Bao was developed to provide cultural enrichment to young audiences in order to experience, create, and learn in an educationally enjoyable environment through exhibits, storytelling, film showing, and interactive hands-on activities that will engage young visitors and stimulate their imagination. Workshops and training. The museum conducts seminars and training to develop artists, art managers, cultural workers, educators, art enthusiasts, and hobbyists of all ages. Performances and festivals. The museum organizes intimate and large plays, concerts, and festivals within the museum spaces and other performance spaces, as well as outreach tours to make the art experience accessible to a larger and varied audience. On top of this, the Negros Museum offers its spaces to hold meetings and special events to bring the community closer to its cultural heritage. To upgrade the museum facilities for a better museum visit experience, benefactor philanthropist Ms. Angelica Uraberry and NCF Chair Jose Marichan underwrote the renovations and the repainting on the main building ground and second-floor galleries and courtyard. A grant from the National Commission for Culture and the Arts made it possible to transform the extension of the museum's main building into a multi-purpose space to include the offices and art spaces to expand the programs and services of the museum. The Film Development Council of the Philippines partnered with the museum to put up Cinematheque Negros to serve as a venue for screening classic and contemporary Filipino films and a hub for film development programs. This partnership also gave birth to the Sine Negrense Negros Island Film Festival to provide a viable outlet of expression to a new generation of filmmakers and enthusiasts. The latest addition in the museum renovation program is Angelica Berry's unveiling of Bao the Unbound Carabao, which proudly stands as a sentinel to the bastion of Visayan art and culture and represents the celebration of heritage through art. The National Commission for Culture and the Arts is a regular partner of the museum in the implementation of its projects. Among these are Mugna towards a sustained cultural development in Negros Island, which aims to effectively seed the foundations of a cultural development process with the purpose of establishing a proactive cultural renaissance in 10 selected towns of Negros Island. Lihok Arts Festival and Congress brought together the Visayas-based artists, craftsmen, cultural workers, and organizers coming from different artistic disciplines to share their best practices with each other. Panakayon Promotion of Visayas Culture, launched in 2016, utilized online or digital platform to promote the rich Visayan culture, practices, traditions, history, and arts through virtual tour and photo essay competitions, the PAMANA ni Lola web serie, an MTV on culture, online games, and a 360 photo booth experience. Hana's Scholarship Program for Second Liners is a platform which aspires to develop the next generation of multidisciplinary artists and art managers while at the same time strengthening the cultural networks in the region. For almost 3 decades, the Cultural Center of the Philippines has been a long-standing and staunch partner of the Negros Cultural Foundation and the Negros Museum. The CCP Outreach and Exchange Division has recognized the Negros Cultural Foundation as one of its regional arts centers through its Isa sa Sining program. This partnership has brought many collaborations to include performances of renowned international and Filipino artists, regional collaborative and touring productions, seminars, workshops, and fora. Negrense artists and performing groups were also provided opportunities to join CCP Outreach touring productions and to perform in the spaces of the Cultural Center of the Philippines, as well as take part in the CCP apprenticeship programs in arts management, production design, venue operations, and technical theater. The latest partnership with CCP is the Kalinga ng Sining Grant, which resulted to the revival of the Panakayan virtual program, a month-long set of segments and activities highlighting Negrense artists and artistic practices featured in the museum Facebook page. It has been 6 months since the declaration of ECQ in our country. However, the Negros Museum remains as one of the few NGOs that continues to endure. The support of valuable partners such as the Cultural Center of the Philippines provides the impetus to carry on our mission, to keep our heritage, arts, and culture alive.
Hello! Good evening ulit mga kapamana and magandang gabi po ulit sa inyo kung nasan po man kayo ngayon sa buong mundo, sa buong Pilipinas. Welcome po ulit sa ating favorite heritage webinar series, ang PAMANA Talks. Ako po ulit si Joel Aldor at kasama ko po ang aking co-host na si Gius Santos. Hi Gius, kumusta?
Hi Joel, hello po sa mga manonood natin tonight. Okay naman, ikaw, kamusta?
Oh, well, I could definitely feel the summer season is
umiinit na.
Arriving. Umiinit na, yeah. Really, summer is my favorite time of the year because I'm a sun worshiper, and what I meant was I always look forward to traveling and being under the sun, seeing many places. Well, let's see if we could resume doing that for this year, kasi last year obviously hindi natin siya nagawa, diba? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to summer, and let's see what this summer for 2021 would bring to us. Well, para po sa ating mga nanonood, again, we invite everyone to please follow us on our or like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Grupo Kalinangan. Also follow us on our Instagram and our Twitter accounts. Well, you could see on our screen that nakita niyo po, follow us on our Instagram at and our Twitter accounts at Grupo Kalinangan, and also to our YouTube channel at Grupo Kalinangan. So you just type in Grupo Kalinangan on YouTube, and you should be able to see it on our previous PAMANA Talks webinars, and you can also view us live there right now. If for some reason you have problems viewing our Facebook live stream right here on Facebook Live, I'm pretty sure you guys are all watching us right now here on Facebook. So I would like to again thank everyone, especially our partners who have been supporting us for all of our webinars for the last year, and of course in our series for celebrating National Arts Month this February. It's been a very very nice month for us so far. So I would like to thank again our friends from the Anguano Cultural Heritage Office, the Cagayan Museum and Historical Research Center, the Museo Nirmon Magsaysay, the Negros Museum, the Bantayan Parish Museum, Bulhoan Parish Museum, Museo ng Gumaka, the Makati Poblacion Heritage Conservation Project, Tuklas Pilipinas, and Museum Pambayan ng Borong, Bantay Kasaysayan Facebook page, yung mga kaibigan po natin sa Cagayan Heritage Conservation Society and Taguig Heritage Society, ay yung mga kaibigan po natin sa Advocates for Heritage Preservation and Local Historical Communities Network. Maraming salamat po sa pagsuporta ninyo and for promoting our PAMANA talks throughout this whole National Arts Month. Nakakataba po talaga ng puso ang inyong suporta. I would like to again, of course, say our regards to our friends who've been following us and have been watching our Facebook live webinars for so long. Let's read the shout-outs from various people here. From Isaiah Jim Torillos from Catanduanes. Hello sa inyo dalawa, sirs. Magandang gabi po dyan. To Noel Pahayupan. Maayong gabi sa tanan halin sa Bacolod. Kumusta po kayo? And maayong adlaw, gatanaw halin sa Iloilo from Mr. Felix Xavier. Magandang gabi po sa inyo. From Quezon City, Sir Celsius Manchon. Magandang gabi po. From Tugigaraw again. Ayan, umiinit na daw dyan sa Tugigaraw. Hello ulit kay Prince. And Anyano Neo Aso Jr. from Quezon City. Mr. Rossini Conwy from Bacoor, Cavite. And Irish Oxtera from Surigao City. And marami pa po mga, of course, sa mga antabay po sa atin. Meron po nanonood din from QC. We're all over the country right now. So we're very happy to have you again tonight here at PAMANA Talks. So before, of course, we start our webinar, let me just, of course, share our webinar guidelines. Oh, by the way, bago po pa tayo pumunta sa ating webinar guidelines. Para po sa ating manonood ngayon, meron po kaming isang malaking announcement po para sa inyo. Grupo Kalinangan will have some major announcements to make later towards the end of the show. So please stay tuned because I'm pretty sure these announcements will definitely excite all of you. So please stay tuned as we make our announcements later. But right now, let's show our webinar guidelines. All right, so let's, of course, alam niyo na itong mga to, no? But again, for those who are viewing us for the first time, make sure that you view the live stream via reliable internet connection. Make sure that you check your audio and wear a nice pair of headphones. Also, you can view the YouTube live stream in our Grupo Kalinangan YouTube channel if you have problems viewing the Facebook live stream. And also, if you are a registered participant, lalo na po sa mga enter po ngayon sa ating GKI PAMANA Community Facebook group, make sure that you grant StreamYard permission to see your name at streamyard.com/Facebook. Ayan, katulad po na to, meron po dito nag-hello sa amin pero nakalagay po Facebook user. Hindi po namin alam kung sino po yung mismo to. Maybe you just want to stay anonymous, but that's fine. But if you want to be acknowledged to your name, make sure that you just go to streamyard.com/Facebook and click this button. Let StreamYard see your Facebook live comments. Okay? Also, lahat po ng mga registered participants po natin, once you have entered our GKI PAMANA community Facebook page, or rather our Facebook group, you can post your questions to the speaker through the comment section on the Facebook or YouTube live stream. Marami po kaming I'm pretty sure marami po mga gusto magtanong sa ating mga speakers, but of course our time is limited. So we of course will try to do our best to accommodate all of your questions during the time allotted for the webinar. Kung hindi po matawag po inyong katanungan, humingi po kami ng pasensya sa inyo. We will ensure that all of your questions will be entertained. That's what we wanted to happen. And of course, para naman po sa sa benefit ng lahat po ng mga manonood. if you also want to personally ask a question to the speaker via video conference, um, please join us to the video conference link. We will post the link on the GKI PAMANA Community Facebook group later on. So make sure that you check your camera and mic settings so the speaker can hear you. And lahat po ng mga nag-register, I'm sure you've done this before, but pero yung mga hindi pa yung mga ngayon pala nag-register para sa talks po namin, lalo na yung mga nanonood po ngayon galing sa Negros, sa Bacolod. Yung mga attend po nitong talk ngayon, I'm sure marami po mga nanonood sa atin galing Bacolod. Para po makuha ang inyong PAMANA Talks e-certificate of participation via email, make sure that you fill out an evaluation form. Yung link po sa evaluation form, we will post it on the GKI PAMANA Community Facebook group a few minutes after the webinar ends. So the link will be available for later until midnight tonight. And after midnight, the evaluation form will be closed. So please make sure that you fill out the evaluation form right away para makuha niyo po ang inyong e-certificate of participation. And finally, let's create a culture of sharing. We encourage everyone to please share our PAMANA talks sa inyong Facebook page, sa inyong newsfeed. Marami po for sure na gusto makapanood itong mga talks po namin. And nagpapasalamat po kami sa support ng lahat ng mga nanonood po sa amin. And of course, for those who have been getting a lot of valuable knowledge from our speakers and of course from our talks. So, maraming salamat po ulit mga kapamana. Ayan. So, meron pa siguro mga i-acknowledge natin yung mga ating mga iba pa nanonood from Baguio City, Miss Maria Cristina Mirasol. Magandang gabi po sa inyo. Also, Miss Tina Mirasol as well. Ayan, magandang gabi po sa inyo. Okay, so back to our webinar right now, and we have been doing a lot of webinars already for the past 4 weeks of course to commemorate National Arts Month for 2021, and this has been a very wonderful experience so far, and we have been very fortunate and very lucky to of course have our wonderful speakers from all over. And meron lang akong actually aminin sa iyo, Gius. Di ba nga sinasabi mo, Gius,
Ano?
Kasi 'di ba, every time na nagtatanong ako sa iyo, may mga yung mga lugar na fini-feature natin sa mga webinars natin, tinatanong ko kung nakapunta ka na.
Oo.
And usually sinasabi mo
Oo,
hindi
unahan na
pa.
kita, hindi pa ako nakapunta. Oo.
Hindi. Ito naman, inunahan mo na ako. Actually, sasabihin ko sa iyo, itong Negros Museum, hindi ko pa ito napapuntahan.
Hindi pa napupunta.
So,
okay, at least kasama ako ngayon.
Oo nga, oo. So, pareho na nasa bucket list natin to. Pero, you know, alam mo yun, I was in Bacolod a few years back. But I never really had the chance to drop by at the museum. So I suppose this will be, part of our bucket list, and it will be a first for the both of us. But aside from that, of course, geez, the Negros Museum, para po sa kaalaman ng lahat, no? The Negros Museum was also one of the local museum beneficiaries from our Ayuda para sa PAMANA fundraising campaign last year. Of course, marami po kami mga sinuportahang mga local museums, and one of them is the Negros Museum. The Ayuda para sa PAMANA campaign last year aimed to provide technical and financial assistance for museum staff and local museums that have been affected by the ongoing pandemic. And that's how I actually got to learn more about the story of the Negros Museum. Salamat rin sa mga naging kaibigan po namin that gave us a lead to understand the needs of the Negros Museum, and we're very, very happy to know that in spite of the challenges of the pandemic, today Negros Museum is continuing to do a lot of programs, and I believe they're also doing some in-person activities right now within the museum, at I think open po yata ang museum ngayon sa mga local Negrense people. So swerte nila kasi nakakabisita sila ngayon sa museum. I think tayo ngayon pa lang ulit tayo nag-open ng mga museums dito sa Manila. Ayun. Pero what I really like about the story of the Negros Museum is that their museum and as well as their exhibits and their collections, they tell very unique stories about the Negrense people. And this is and in particular yung mga works ng mga Negrense artists. They're more into contemporary arts, no. Although of course they have all part of their collection, part of their exhibits will also focus on the colonial and pre-colonial history of Negros Island. And you know, because of that, I'm very excited to go back to Bacolod very soon. Hopefully, maybe within this year, and finally be able to visit the museum. Sama ka, Gio, sa susunod.
Sabay na tayo, di ba?
Yeah, sure. Let's plan that one out. And tonight, we are very, very happy to have for our final PAMANA Talks for National Arts Month for 2021. We have here tonight the Executive Director of Negros Museum to share more about the stories of the Negrense people and the artists that they have been featuring inside the Negros Museum. So let me tell you more about the speaker tonight. Our speaker tonight is an arts manager. She's also a cultural organizer and theater director. Aside from being, of course, the executive director of the Negros Museum, she is also the director of the Artists Hub and Culture and Arts Program of the University of Saint La Salle in Bacolod City. Ayan. Bilang isang active advocate for the arts, tumulong siya sa pag-establish ng mga cultural organizations and festivals sa Visayas like the Performance Laboratory Incorporated, the Teatrokon, the Western Visayas Theatre Network, and the West Visayas Association of Museums. Siya currently president ng Western Visayas Association of Museums. And also the CineKasimanwa West Visayas Film Festival, the Sine Negrense Film Festival, the Bakunawa Cinema of the Young, and the Kuris International Theatre Festival. Ang daming festivals, ang daming mga activities sa Negros pa lang. Nako, ang sarap sigurong puntahan tong mga to.
Kailangan talaga natin bumisita dyan, Joel.
Nako, kailangan natin maplano yan, Gius. She is also the board member of the Women Playwrights International Philippine chapter, secretary of the International Playwrights Forum-Philippine Center, and also the artistic director of the Maskara Theater Ensemble and Teatro Lingganay. Yan. Siya rin po ay isang part-time faculty ng Liceo de La Salle Senior High School Program, and she also teaches theater arts and production para sa mga first year to fourth year philosophy students of the Sacred Heart Seminary. Naku, napaka-busy nitong taong ito. But talagang sumaswerte natin at napaunlakan po niya ang ating napaunlakan niya ang ating invitasyon, and we're very honored to have her time to share to us the story of the Negros Museum and how the museum had helped create a strong infrastructure and a platform for helping grow the local arts and crafts of Negros. So, mga kapamana, without further ado, we would like to welcome on our webinar tonight the Executive Director of Negros Museum, Ms. Tanya Lopez. Magandang gabi po dyan sa inyo, sa Bacolod. Hello, Ms. Tanya.
Mayong gabi, Joel, and mayong gabi, Gius. Thank you so much for inviting us to represent the Negros Museum here sa PAMANA. And we are very happy to be your partner, one of your partners, of your chosen partners in your programs for Grupo Kalinangan.
Maraming salamat rin po, and maayong gabi rin sa inyo sa Bacolod. So, kumusta naman po kayo, Ms. Tanya?
Nilanervyos. So far, okay naman. We have survived the 2020 struggle for COVID. So far, the museum is still here. So we heave a sigh of relief, and we're just happy to be talking about what we're doing and sharing this to everyone. And hopefully, we can learn from each other.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot to learn from you. So, how is the Negros Museum doing right now? Buti pa kayo, matagal na siguro kayo bukas dyan. Dito sa Manila, ngayon pa lang kami nagbubukas ulit at paunti-unti ito. How is the
Actually,
museum now?
we just opened this February, pero limited time only kasi we are still under IATF. We are still observing IATF guidelines. So we open like 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, 3 to 4 times a week. And for reservations as much as possible. Although may mga walk-ins, we accommodate them, pero pa konti-konti lang talaga, not big crowds yet. Just to ensure safety, no, and health of everybody who comes to the museum. So yun, pero this February lang.
So kakabukas lang, okay.
Yes.
So I suppose much of the activities that you've done prior to this month have been online or virtual.
Online, virtual, small, intimate encounters, specifically yung mga performances na hindi pwedeng gawin. So, ginagawa namin, pero we limit the number of people and we are very, very careful about social distancing.
Yeah, tama naman po yun. Kailangan talaga na, while we of course continue promoting our arts and culture, we have to also ensure the safety and health of our fellow people. Okay? So, I guess marami po tayo mga gusto malaman about the Negros Museum. So, we could start our talk, Ms. Tanya, and I will share my screen here. Okay. So, Ms. Tanya, take it away.
Thank you, Joel. Just to share with you some of our initiatives with the Negros Museum, I'd like to introduce the Negros Museum as an organization that is dedicated to promoting and sustaining a deep understanding of local culture, history, artistic practice, and ecology, primarily among the children and the youth of the island of Negros, and also among peoples visiting the various areas of the province. The Negros Museum commits to this work in order to contribute to long-lasting social understanding. Yun po yung mission namin. Next slide, please. The museum is being managed by the Negros Cultural Foundation, and meron po kaming sister museum, which is 10 years older than us. That is the Sine Negrense Museum. Next slide. So this year, we are turning 25 on March 16. Tamang-tama, no? Timing sa 500th anniversary of the arrival of the Spanish in the Philippines. And we are very happy to be celebrating that date. But we are very happy to also share that in the past 24 years, the museum has been in the forefront of the region's cultural and art landscape through its following programs. Next slide. Meron po kaming exhibits and artist talks. These are permanent and changing exhibits in our galleries and are supplemented by inviting artists to emphasize the creative process, inspiration, and exploration of the craft. Next slide. And then we have educational tours. Aside from the walk-in tours, we have discovered in the past that hindi pwede na walk-in lang or tour guide lang talaga ang pwedeng pumunta, ang pwede para sa mga estudyante, because our primary target audience are the children and youth. So a few years back, we have decided to come up with package tours specifically to cater to the museum's primary audience, which are the children and youth. And through our museum education program, we developed an educational tour called ang mga ISTORYA ni Bao, aimed to provide cultural enrichment to young audiences in order to experience, create, and learn in an educationally enjoyable environment through exhibits, workshops, performances, and interaction, hands-on activities that will engage and stimulate their imagination. So hindi pwedeng tour lang, kailangan may games, dapat makaka-interact yung mga bata sa mga exhibits. And the visit of a young person to the museum should be fun, aside from educational, so that they will bring the experience with them. Next slide. So the tour includes film showing, storytelling, meron po kaming games, interactive activities, and giveaways para mas lalo silang masaya. At pag umuwi sila, marami silang kwento na pwede nilang ikwento sa mga kapatid nila at sa mga parents nila, so that maengganyo din ito na bumalik at bumisita ulit sa Negros Museum. Next slide. Um, okay. Also, in partnership with cultural institutions, the Negros Museum conducts seminars and trainings to artists, cultural workers, and educators. So yung mga partners po namin dito is the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. We also partner with the Cultural Center of the Philippines. We are one of their kaisa-sa-sining regional art centers. And marami po silang dinadala dito ng mga workshops na we share also to our publics in our different communities. Next slide. Aside from that, we also have an annual summer arts workshop. Unfortunately, this year and last year, canceled po because of COVID. But in the past years, regularly, meron kaming art workshops for theater, visual arts, and music for the youth and the children. And usually, pag end of the workshop, nakakaroon po kami ng recital para mas maganda pa rin yung experience ng mga bata. Next slide. And on top of this, the museum offers its spaces to hold special events to provide a meaningful experience to the communities. So not only in the museum, but we also organize concerts and performances outside of the museum as well. So mamaya, in the later part of the slide, I'll be sharing also some of the festivals that we have been organizing. Next slide. Yung permanent exhibit namin on the second floor have two parts as of the moment. So can we move on to the next slide? The first exhibit is what we call the pre-colonial Negros. That's our permanent exhibit. Since the museum is a repository of things Negrense, the pre-colonial exhibit tells the story of Negros and its people before the Spanish arrived. The pre-colonial room tells the story of Buglas, now known as Negros, before the Spaniards came, and even when the colonizers had established themselves on the island. So can we move on and let's take a look at, these are the murals of the lobby, in the lobby, or the second floor. Dati nasa lobby siya. And these are all done when the museum first opened by Negrense artists, such like Antonio Tejado, Rex Cuenca. Let's move on to the next murals. Yan. So ito yung, there are 10 murals on the first room on the second floor. Next slide. So it tells about the story of how our culture was before the Spanish came, ano yung mga beliefs, traditions, and practices that we used to do. And then on the second room, can we move on to the next slide? Is what we call the Talamdan, another permanent exhibit that was put up in collaboration with the National Archives of the Philippines. So this is the core of the Negros Museum. The Talamdan is an assemblage of 3 distinct groupings that support the reason for the exhibit's being. Talamdan is a Hiligaynon word that means to record. Hence, the exhibit is an archival one, made up of records and other evidences of transactions. It also connotes evidences of power explained by the fact that these records came about because Negros, as part of the Philippines, was part of the Empire of Spain. We move on to the next. So ito na po yung mga activities and initiatives na ginagawa namin pre-COVID and during COVID. During COVID, one of the biggest challenges was that most of the museums were closed. Actually, all of the museums were closed. So we couldn't actually invite guests, but we were very lucky that we were able to keep our spaces together. And during the COVID period, we provided the spaces as our initiative to earn an income and to let people come to the museum. So we hosted website photo shoots. This one is for the Negros Season of Culture, which is another initiative of the Angelica Berry Foundation, our benefactor, aimed to promote Negrense culture to other parts of the world. Next slide. Another photo shoot that we did in the museum was for the NCCA online portal. So hindi pa ito lumalabas, pero here are some photos of the behind the scenes of what we did in the spaces of the museum. Next slide. We're also very lucky that some artists, since closed yung mga computer shops, they discovered the museum as a space where they can hold a webinar. So here is one local artist. She's actually a writer, she's a poet, and she's also a fiction writer, children's book writer, and she's creating her own website, and she chose the museum as a venue for the webinars that she is conducting online. So as you can see, we're using some of our galleries as background for the webinars. And dito rin po nakaset up, our staff would also support them. So this is one of our income generating activities during COVID, since we didn't have an option to have guests. We also host workshops. The Bagones ng Negros is an initiative of local artists to come together. So ito naman yung mga artists na ito, they wanted to create something for the church since hindi pwedeng magtaltal. So they created an online Siete Palabras, including a retreat, no, wherein they get to understand the 7 last words. And this is going to be translated into film. Instead of a taltal that requires people to gather, and this is going to be done online. The museum also provided them a space for them to have their workshop and for them to meet and come together. Next. During COVID also, we hosted screenings, online screenings. Bakunawa Cinema of the Young is one of the initiatives which I co-founded with Elbert Banyares, a filmmaker. And Bakunawa is a series of workshops and festivals now. The reason why we're having so many festivals is that we also wanted to provide a space for artists to express their works. And we discovered that it is through festivals that they get inspired and they get to learn from each other. So next slide. Since we also have an initiative and a partnership with the Film Development Council of the Philippines, which led us to put up the Sine Negrense Negros Island Film Festival. Last year would have been our 4th year already for the festival. And since it was COVID, we couldn't gather and have our annual awards night. So Sine Negrense migrated itself to online, and we showcased the best works, of the past 3 years. This year, we're going to do a hybrid. So this year, we are aiming to have an online and hopefully a face-to-face, kung open yung mga cinemas, again, for the Sine Negrense Negros Island Film Festival. Next slide. So ito yung first 3 years of the posters that we had since 2017 to 2019. Another initiative that we did during COVID, since it's really difficult for people to come together, but like artists, we couldn't stop ourselves from expressing. So we provided the museum a space for young artists, poets, actors, writers to come together and share their poetry and scripts through poetry reading and script reading or monologues. We call this the Friday Madness. So every Friday they would come together, but we'll limit the number to only enough people which can have actually social distance sitting inside our galleries, and naka-masks, and only the person who is sharing can take off his or her mask and perform. And then afterwards, meron silang konting get-together, so they learn again from the experience of each other. So it's also part of healing, so they don't get cooped up and get stressed in their houses. Next slide. And then we also have a black box theater. So ito naman are small performances and readings as well. As you can see, it's a small space that we have in the Culture Hub, which is part of the extension of the museum. And these are also the theater actors, sharing their crafts. So some of these have undergone workshops online during COVID, and they test their materials in the black box. Next slide, please. We also hosted an international online forum in partnership with the International Playwrights Forum and the Women Playwrights International. So these are scripts by international women playwrights that our local artists did a staged reading, and then it was also aired online. Next slide. Recently, this February, we also hosted the Kuris Theatre Festival, which is on its 8th year already. So the museum has been a regular host of the Kuris Theatre Festival. Marami pong partners yung Kuris since 10 years ago. So it's an international festival because we have partners coming from the International Theatre Institute, the Women Playwrights International, which are both international organizations. In the past years, they would come to the museum or they would come to Bacolod to conduct the workshops. But this year, since wala nga, so everything is online. So next slide. What we did is that we pre-recorded the performances with very limited audience para we can keep the theater experience alive kasi dapat yung theater is live with a live audience. And then we edit it and we post it online for the festival. Next slide. So this is part of the festival, the roundtable discussion with international writers and dramaturgs now, where we learn from each other. Since they cannot come to the Philippines, the next level would be meet na lang through Zoom online. So we still learn, we still exchange, and we still network with each other. Next slide. Another, I think, big thing that we did during COVID was to create a Kalinga ng Sining, a Panakayon journey to heritage, culture, and history and art. Kalinga ng Sining is a project of the Cultural Center of the Philippines. We were able to get a grant that allowed us to transport the online tour to an online programming. So yung Panakayon, meron siyang iba-ibang components like our tour. Can we move on to the next slide? One of the components is Handuraw, which we post every Monday. So these are things that will remind us of our culture and heritage. Okay, next slide. Yung pangalawa is the Talabuan. No? A Talabuan, tabuan, where we meet is a place where people can exchange. So this is where we promote works of art, products of art, like the books that we were able to produce. Yung Negros Cultural Foundation produced a book called The Adobo Chronicles, yung 5 de Noviembre, and other literature publications that we have in the museum shop. We post it in the Talabuan so that people know, and if they want to buy, they can get in touch with the Negros Museum. Next slide. The other component is Hinampang. Kasi nga dapat interactive. So kahit pa paano, dapat magkakaroon din ng games yung mga bata. Kasi the purpose still of Panakayon is to educate aside from entertaining. So we try to keep true to our mission that we educate the young children and youth of Negros. So through the Panakayon, kahit online games lang siya, hopefully engaging din yung experience to those who would visit our Facebook page. Next slide. And lastly, yung silang. What is silang? Silang means to see through. Here, we feature the artists and the people behind the scenes. And then we give a short write-up and a short message of what they have done, what they have accomplished, so that at the same time, kung wala pa rin tayong artist encounter since wala pang face-to-face, kahit paano sa Panakayon, we get to know our local artists and our local cultural movers as well. Next slide. This February also, we launched the ISTORYA ni Bao online launch. So si Bao, as you saw in our video earlier, is a product, is a donation of our benefactor, the Angelica Berry Foundation, because Bao is a symbol of strength and dignity in Negros. So Bao has always been our companion, especially for the farmers. So we created an icon out of him. So Bao, who is our constant companion, is going to start telling us stories about life, about Negros culture, and will keep on entertaining us as we go along and survive this pandemic. Next slide. And lastly, we would like to share our exhibits in the past and present. We would like to claim the Negros Museum as a hub for local artists and local art. And we are very proud that we have housed different exhibits by different local artists from Negros. So this one is currently ongoing in the museum. It's called Balay Balay. No, it's a mosaic work by Tata Sevilleno. So she's one of our local artists. She's also a writer and a performer. Next slide. The Unrefining Sugarlandia is curated by Gina Hoxon, is one of the exhibits that we are most proud of because it is a group show that was first shown here in the museum after our renovation. So it features the works of some of our distinguished local artists like Susanito Sarnate, Baris Cervantes, Joe Geraldo. Next slide. We also have people like, this is the artwork designed by Charlie Ko outside of the museum, no? And next slide. Nagkabaliktad yung slide ko. So here are some of our local artists that were featured in Unrefining Sugarlandia. That's Noni Alvarado, Dennis Ascalon, and Charlie Ko, okay, during the opening night. And on the right photo is Gina Hoxon, the curator, together with the president of the foundation, Lynn Gamboa. Next slide. This is the artwork of Susanito Sarnate. Okay, so ano naman siya, terracotta. Next slide. So this is part of Unrefining Sugarland. Some of the artworks by Nune Alvarado and Charlie Ko. And next slide. And this is one of Raymond Legaspi, Dennis Ascalon, and Karina Gonzaga. So very contemporary works, no? And then another of our exhibits in the past is Kabuhi by Bert Berondo. Okay, next. Ito rin, this is our last exhibit last year before the museum closed for COVID. So we have Amidst the Green. It's a back-to-back exhibit by two very beautiful in and out artists, no? Joanne Coruña and Angela Silva. So yung Amidst the Green, next slide. This is the works of Joanne Coruña. So these are her sketches of the different plants, no, that is shown in Negros. So meron siyang parang diary, and it's like a journal, a visual journal, where she does all of this documentation, and she exhibited her works. And next slide. For Angela Silva naman, she made prints, no, out of old photos and out of nature as well. So these were shown for 4 months in the museums until we closed. And then here's another exhibit which opened last year, Psychedelic Dreams in a Wild World by Joe Geraldo. He's one of our very well versed, no, terracotta artists. Although here he did hindi siya nag-terracotta dito. She did oil paintings here. And next slide. Yon. Ito, ongoing right now, we have Petimont. These are 4x4 artworks. So this one is painted on tea bags by Leah Samson, one of our local artists also, and she's the president of the Art Association of Bacolod City. Next slide. And here's another example of Petimont. These are watercolor works naman of Ed Sevillano. So these are some of the works, no, and the artists that we have hosted here in the museum in different exhibits. We've done a lot of one-man shows, back-to-back shows, and group shows in the museum. And most of these are done by our contemporary artists. So next slide. So I would like to end here with this quote that over the past years, and I'd like to say we're turning 25 this year and hanging on, the Negros Museum stands tall in fulfilling its mission to be the home of Negrense stories, preserving its rich culture, tradition, and artistic practices, and becoming the hub of local arts in the province. So that's it. That is the Negros Museum in, I think, 54 frames. Joel.
Wow, that was a really, ang daming namin nakita sa mga slides niyo, and it goes to show how the Negros Museum is very, very active in its, of course, yung kanilang mga programs and the activities to really sustain the creativity and the artistic expressions of the Negrense artists. And thank you for sharing those stories, Ms. Tanya. It's very wonderful to hear those stories about the Negrense artists. But I have some questions now, no? Kasi meron akong nakita mga programs ninyo, and owing to, of course, the previous programs that have been initiated even before, long before the pandemic started. Nasabi ninyo kanina kasi, diba, na festivals are parang, you found out that the festivals are the platforms for artists to be able to express themselves artistically. So how do you solve that problem in sustaining that creative expressions of those artists when they cannot participate in festivals right now?
Online.
Yes, go ahead.
We go online. Actually, some of the artists, they still come to the museum for workshops, although they ask permission to use the space, so we provide the spaces for them. But again, we're very, very careful with guidelines. But we also have online platforms right now, so we encourage them to still keep on doing work.
Okay. So it's a hybrid approach, no? You provide you host them online, and also you provide the space in the museum to still conduct much smaller groups, so they can still perform their creative works. So what are the incentives, that the Negros Museum provide to the artists, whether they're in the visual arts or performing arts? Maybe you could tell us more about, ano yung mga provide niyo sa kanila mga incentives?
Well, they can use the space for free. One of the incentives also is that they are able to attend workshops for free. Masipag kaming humingi ng mga grants and support from different institutions like you, di ba? Tinulungan nyo kami. So we spread the love. So yun. We have a lot of online workshops, and we encourage these artists coming from different schools and cultural organizations also to join these workshops. And then, part of that is that they get to participate in the festival. At the same time, I think incentive na rin yun, that they get to meet people, and they get to exchange. In the past, we would also bring in resource persons coming from Manila and coming from abroad. So the workshops are for free. And actually, we've had opportunities that some of these artists have been invited to festivals outside of the country. So it's basically a platform wherein they can showcase their work, and they can get connections with other organizations and artists as well. So it's really exposure. Free use of space. Pag may budget, of course, we provide meals and transportation. Yun lang yun. Pag medyo malaki yung budget, we also give them like token fees, so that it also covers some of their expenses for coming to the museum. Yun.
Yeah. Well, how about the curators? I've seen so many exhibits, and those exhibits are meticulously planned, and the artworks that are featured in those exhibits are carefully chosen by the curators. So what are the incentives for those art curators for those exhibits?
Some of these exhibits are products of collaborations also as well. So we collaborate with Orange Project. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. If you come to Bacolod, you should also visit that space. We're co-promoting each other. This is managed by Charlie Co. So yung Unrefining Sugarlandia actually is organized by Charlie Co with Gina Hoxon. And the incentives of the curators is that they get to use the spaces, and they also get to promote their work. For the National Archives for Talamdan, it was a partnership with National Archives. So basically, hindi siguro incentive yung binibigay namin sa kanila, but basically we are the ones which are benefiting from these partnerships as well. So they have a free hand on how to design and how to work with the spaces. And we also give them support in terms of tapping the local artists and local art.
Yeah. I would actually want to see the paintings of those exhibits, and of course the ones in your permanent collections in person very soon. I have a question about some of the ones in the permanent exhibit right now, and many of them were done by the contemporary artists. So meron akong question, and I actually wanted to highlight some of these. Gius, maybe you could show. Ayan. Can you move to the next slide? Para pakita. Ayan. Ako, natuwa lang ako dito, no? So, meron ditong paintings by Antonio Tejado and Rex Cuenca. The next slides then, just to show the others. Next slide. We have here then from Fred Huson and Roy Aguilar. I'm just curious, no? Can you tell us more about these artists and who are the main influences? Because looking at the paintings, it felt like I've seen those paintings before. Pero maybe because I've seen styles from other prominent Filipino artists which they have applied. So maybe you could tell more about their influences.
Most of these artists who did the murals for the Negros Museum in 1996 when we opened, were members of the Art Association of Bacolod. So basically, some of them are founding members of AAB when they were organized in the 1970s. So most of these artists are actually self-taught. I think dalawa lang yung may formal training in fine arts, and that would be, I think, si Antonio Tejado and Rex Cuenca, and there's another one. The rest are self-taught. They were learning from each other. They have workshops here lang locally. And at this point, when I was interviewing also some of them, when we were doing research, they were saying that they were also, at this time, during their career, they were trying to find their own styles. So most probably, they're also influenced by works of our masters. So they played around with colors, with styles. Some of them were influenced by European masters. But of course, for the Filipino masters, we have Jose Hoya, H.R. Ocampo, Fernando Amorsolo. Sila yung mga famous nung time na yun, nung 1970s. So those, I think, were the influences that we can see. Although, I know na when I asked one of our curators as well, na at this time when they were doing this, they were trying so hard to make their own style as well. So I'm sure may influence dyan, pero they're also trying to make it distinctive as their own, and they were focused on really telling the story of pre-Spanish Negros.
Yeah, or probably they're also sort of aligning to a certain school of painting that was started by, say, Botong Francisco or Manansala. I could see the Botong influences here. So talagang ano siya. And of course, for everyone here who loves the paintings of Carlos Botong Francisco, they can see a lot of similarities in their styles, no? So ayun. So being the hub of the local arts and culture of Negros Occidental, how does the Negros Museum position itself with the rest of the country and even the rest of the world? How does the Negros Museum present itself to the whole country?
At this point, in the middle of struggle and all, we wanted to present ourselves. The vision of the museum is we want also to be world class, but we want to focus on telling the stories of Negros and giving a space for the local artists to express themselves. Yun nga, kasi usually in the past, diba, usually pag sinasabi yung museum, it's very focused lang on visual arts. But we learned that, of course, art naman is encompassing, and since there are a lot of disciplines and they come to the museum, they gravitate here. So we want to be the center or the space or the center of all of these collaborations and exchange between Negros and the rest of the world. I think that's how we wanted to position ourselves with all of these endeavors that we're doing at the moment.
Right. And ano yung mga future plans ninyo for the museum? And also probably future plans for yourself. You've been an executive director for quite some time now, and you've been doing a lot of work. Napaka-busy niyo punta, but do you have other plans that you wanted to, of course, accomplish?
Well, first, for the plans for the museum, I think we want to improve our exhibits. We want to make it, in aligned to being world class, we want also to make it more interactive. That means na mas engaging siya for young people, maybe make use of technology so that they are able to interact with the work some more and learn more as they go through all of these exhibits. We are looking at having more performances for schools and for children. One of our biggest plans in the last year, before COVID struck, was really to bring the museum to the communities. Kasi nga, it's very difficult for the rest of Negros to come to the museum. Kasi when you talk about school tours, there's travel, there's cost. So one of the plans that we wanted to do was to come up with mobile exhibits that we can bring to schools and communities and leave it there so that more kids learn more about Negros culture and cultures of the world. That's where we're looking at. For the spaces that we have, we want to have more interaction with the local government units. Right now, the museum is also actively part of the Regional Council for History, Arts, and Culture, organized by NEDA. And there's a lot of opportunities for network and linkaging with other LGUs. Also, one of our thrusts is to provide psychosocial support using arts to support communities for healing. Ang dami naming plans. But if you ask me personally kung ano yung plans ko, since I think alam mo na I'm more into theater, I'm really a theater artist, I would really like to direct more plays. Kaya ako na-notice mo, most of our tours may performance component kasi that's where we really also theater, which is my discipline of choice actually, to make it more engaging for people. Yun.
Okay. Well, I really I'm looking forward to seeing a performance art tour mala Carlos Adrana style yes. So the next time I go to Bacolod, I'll make it a point to really visit the Negros Museum, hopefully to see you there in person. So do we have any questions from the audience here? Maybe Gius, you could ask Tanya.
Ano lang, ma'am, bago ako magtanong, sobrang saya po na malaman na hindi lang, sa mga cities like Metro Manila yung talagang nabubuhay yung art scene. Sa Negros, as in buhay na buhay siya talaga, tapos showcase pa yung local artists nyo. So, ang ganda po malaman na gano'n talaga yung local art scene. Curious lang po ako dun sa building, ma'am. I'm not sure if na-discuss siya kanina or na-miss ko lang. Originally po ba binuild talaga yung building as a museum or adaptive reuse na lang siya?
Adaptive reuse siya. Originally, yung museum was housed in the provincial capital when it opened in 1996. But in 1999 or 2000, we transferred to this building that we have right now. So the present building that we have used to be the former agriculture extension building. Built in the 1940s. So it's adaptive reuse, and then since maliit yung space, nagkaroon siya ng extension on the side. So meron, kaya yun po yung hub where we have the black box theater and we also have the cinematheque. And an atrium for outdoor events. Yun.
Okay. What do you think, Ms. Tanya, is the next best thing, or the next big thing, rather, to happen for the Negros local arts?
A big festival. We were supposed to host the Viva XCon last year. We were supposed to be one of the venues of that inter-island festival, which happens every 2 years and which was organized here in Negros. And Viva has many components. Meron siyang visual arts, theater, film, and other disciplines as well. However, during COVID, it was also moved, no, and they had to go online. So we wanted to have a big festival here in Negros to promote Negros arts and to also bring other artists to Negros. We'd like Negros to be the center of arts and culture, if not in the whole country, in the region or in the Western Visayas. Although there are also other big cities here that are very that are flourishing in arts. So we'd like to count Negros as one of that. And hopefully the museum contributes to this movement in pushing the arts or the Negrense artists forward to introduce them to the rest of the world. And of course to the Negrenses.
And final question na lang po, Ms. Tanya, sa inyo pong palagay, what makes the Negrense artists very exceptional among other Filipino artists? What makes them very unique?
Well, Negros is ano yan? Sanay kami sa hirap in Negros. Although you would say that Negros has houses all dachateros and all of the rich, we have rich lands, but a lot of our artists come from grassroots as well. So we have a lot of experience, hardships in life. I think this is true naman to all of the artists. This is a universal feeling. But in Negros, very, very extreme yung experiences ng mga artists. At the same time, there's also a lot of collaboration and exchange happening here. Negrense artists are also very generous with each other. That's what I learned. Nagtutulungan with all of these things that we do a lot of collaborations among ourselves and with other organizations and other institutions. So I think that's what makes us special. Mahilig kaming mag-network at mag-collaborate at gumawa.
Yes, I mean, talagang talagang namumukod-tangi ang inyong art scene because I believe inspiration just springs forth from those artists continuously. So with that, Ms. Tanya Lopez, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. And also our viewers right now are also very appreciative of your talk. Let's acknowledge our viewers who have been sharing their congratulations to you. Congrats, Tanya Lopez, from Mr. Pen Larena. Also, good evening from St. Paul University, Dumaguete, Mariah Sheena. And sino pa ba? Ito, Helen Pagunsan, Mayunggan Iman Tane, Numaalagad ko. Okay. Also, ayun, great activities by Racine Conwy. And Chris Simon Belaong Abadilla. Congratulations, Mother Tanya. Oy, may marami kayong mga followers mo ngayon.
Seminaryo.
And also, Obadiah Joseph. Thank you so much, Day Marian Francis Gabus. Nalimut jud ko. Ayan. And to Miss Tina Mirasol, congrats, Miss Tanya, and to all the Negrenses. Yan. And pahabol na message from Racine Conwy. Thanks so much. You have a beautiful museum. We hope to go there someday. So marami na po kami pupunta dyan. Ako.
Yes.
And
marami na tayong kasabay, Joel.
Marami na tayong kasabay, yes. So we also would like to say hello din. So sa pagplanuhin talaga natin yan. Let's say hello din sa ating mga viewers from different places around the country. Jamila Pasiruso, watching from Malanao del Norte. Good evening from San Jose del Monte, Bulacan, Zenian Jaspe Martin. And of course, to Miss Vanessa de Guzman Afable from Cavite City, Kababayan. Gusto po. And ayun, si Miss Marashina, thank you, Ma'am Lopez. We learned a lot from you. Maraming salamat. And yun, nasabi ko na pala to. So, ayun. So again, Miss Lopez, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras at sa
Thank you.
share po ng inyong mga stories tungkol po sa Negros Museum at storya ng mga Negrense artists. Pahabol din galing kay Miss Vanessa. I hope to go there too one day. Ayan. Sige. Salamat po,
Welcome.
Miss Tanya. Maraming salamat po. Okay. So, mga kapamana, ayun. Sana po na gusto niyo po ang aming Pamana Talks ngayon. And we're, of course, wrapping up our celebrations for National Arts Month. It's about, we're already at the tail end of the month of February. But of course, the work for promoting our culture and heritage doesn't stop. And with that, we wanted to actually make some really big announcements for every one of you. So actually, we have 3 announcements. Ayan, para po sa mga nanonood sa atin ngayon. Pero bago po namin i-announce, of course, syempre, itong mga big announcements na to. Para sa lahat po naman nag-register, again, we wanted to remind everyone, sa lahat po naman nag-register sa Pamana Talks ngayong gabi, para makuha niyo po ang inyong e-certificate of participation, please make sure that you fill out the evaluation form, which we will be posting on this link right now. So kung makikita niyo po sa inyong web stream or live stream ang link to the evaluation form, you can start filling out the evaluation form, or you can open it on another tab on your web browser. So you can fill out the evaluation form and get your e-certificate of participation via email. And it will be available for you to fill out until midnight tonight. Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have some big announcements, and we're going to make 3 announcements tonight. So, the first one, ayan. So, as you know, mga kapamana, we've been doing a lot of Pamana Talks in the last year. So, and nakakatuwa po talaga na we're so amazed at how we have come this far. Not only we're able to invite speakers from different fields and share their time and knowledge to all of us, but we were also able to build a very engaged community of viewers, and our hearts are full, and natutuwa po kami na makasama po namin kayo. And we are definitely going to continue doing these webinars as part of our community engagement program for Grupo Kalinangan. But we think, and we also believe that we could further strengthen our discourse towards our common goals in heritage conservation and promoting our local arts and culture. And we could further our goals together as a community. No, lahat po ng mga kasama po namin yan sa grupo Kalinangan, as well as the wider GKI Pamana community members in our Facebook group have been, of course, watching our Pamana Talks, and I'm pretty sure all of you who have been watching with us right now wanted to reach out to every one of you and to each other. So we believe the next step, the next logical and the next sensible step for us is to have those actual conversations with this engaged group of participants coming from the different backgrounds, from the different parts of the country, from the different cultures. And it will be very wonderful to see everyone connected, which is exactly why we are going to launch this new initiative. So I would like to share to you, ito po yung magiging bago naming initiative under the community engagement program. We want to announce Pamana Peer Conversations. The Pamana Peer Conversations will be launched as a series of virtual and in-person sessions, and this will be a new initiative under the community engagement program of GKI. We'll announce more details about Pamana Peer Conversations on the GKI Pamana Community Facebook group and the GKI Facebook page later on. We're going to tell you more about this, but basically, we wanted to provide you with a platform for all of you, for all of us who are members of the GKI Pamana community and who have been engaging us with our Pamana Talks webinars, to actually have a platform, a space in a place where you could share your best practices, share your ideas about local arts and culture and heritage conservation, air out your sentiments, your challenges and issues related to the field, and also be able to find uh, points of collaboration and intersection among your peers and your local heritage advocates. So we want to stimulate that conversation by having this platform, especially for you. So we're going to announce more details about PAMANA Peer Conversations in the very near future, in the coming days. So please wait for the details in our Facebook page and our Facebook group. Okay, the next announcement. Ito po, marami po I'm sure, marami pong maging excited dito. And marami pong gustong sumali dito. In the coming weeks, we are going to accept our registrations for Batch 11 of our GKI Cultural Mapping Facilitators Training and Certification Program happening this April 10 to May 8. It will be a 5-weekend training program, and many resource speakers and experts from different fields in cultural mapping and authorities in cultural heritage will be participating and conducting lectures and workshops in this core training program of Grupo Kalinangan, and applications will open very soon. So we invite every one of you to take part in this training program, to become a member of Grupo Kalinangan as well, and become a very active volunteer member and be part of nation building in promoting our culture and preserving our heritage. So we will announce the applications for the Cultural Mapping Facilitators Training Program Batch 11 this March. Ayan. And finally, ito po yung aming third na announcement. Dahil po tayo po yung magsa-celebrate ngayon ng ating quincentennial. Nako. In the coming months of March and April, the whole nation, the whole Philippines will be celebrating the quincentennial celebrations in commemoration of the 500th year of the arrival of Christianity in the Philippines, as well as the 500th year of the victory at the Battle of Mactan. PAMANA Talks will be back for a very special QCP edition. We have prepared rather, 2 special talks para po sa inyong lahat. In collaboration with the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, we have invited 2 speakers. This will be on April 14, 2021. The first speaker will be Dr. Pedro Luengo Gutierrez, who is the Doctor of Art History at the University of Seville, Spain. He had done various research work on ecclesiastical arts in the Philippines. And for this very special PAMANA Talks QCP edition happening on April 14, he will be talking about panels of faith, retablos at the crossroads of globalization. So sa April 14 po yan, Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And for 2 days after that, another special PAMANA Talks QCP edition will be held on Friday, April 16. Ayan. Again, with the NHCP and the quincentennial commemorations, we're going to have, again, Xiao Chua, historian and a professor of De La Salle University. He will be doing a talk called Victory and Humanity. Ano na ngayon? Making sense of the quincentennial commemorations in the Philippines. This is a very eye-opening talk, and I'm sure this is very timely and something very, very relevant for all of us. And we're very, very honored to have both Pedro Luengo Gutierrez and Xiao Chua again to do these PAMANA Talks special QCP edition this April. So antabayanan niyo po yan para po sa inyong lahat. Ginagawa po namin ito para sa PAMANA and para po sa inyong lahat, sa aming mga kapamana ngayon. So again, maraming salamat po sa inyong suporta. It's been a very, very wonderful National Arts Month po, and antabayanan nyo lang po ang aming mga announcements sa Grupo Kalinangan Facebook page and the GK PAMANA Community Facebook group. So, ayun, maraming salamat po sa inyo. We'll take a short break lang from our webinars, but of course, we'll be back on April for the special quincentennial commemorations in the Philippines. And as we end the National Arts Month for 2021, iiwanan po namin kayo with a quote. Again, a food for thought for everyone, a food for thought for all of us mga kapamana for National Arts Month. Now, this quote is from one of the most prominent landscape artists in American history, and his name is George Inness. And he said, "The true use of art is first to cultivate the artist's own spiritual nature." Ayan. Maraming salamat po ulit mga kapamana, and we will see you again very, very soon. In the meantime, please stay safe and don't forget to fill out the evaluation form that we'll be posting. And please wait for our announcements in our digital channels. And in the meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyo and we will see you again very, very soon. So paalam po sa inyong lahat. And thank you again, Ms. Tanya, for joining.
Congratulations to Grupo Kalilangan and to PAMANA. Salamat.
Paalam po sa inyo lahat and have a happy, happy weekend. Padayon po para sa PAMANA.